Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Three-Man College Basketball Show, hosted by SportsbookReview.com. I'm Matt. The boys are all here. Fellas, we're at an inflection point of this lovely season, a young season, no doubt. But the whole tune-up games for the big boys versus the little sisters of the poor, those days are now slowly beginning to fade into oblivion in our rear view. We now have some Goliath versus Goliath matchups on the slate. It's a terrific Tuesday lineup. We'll break it down for you all tonight. Ky, Jim, how are you both doing on this fine Tuesday morning? Ky, you first.
Matt, I'm doing great. I noticed something last night that I want to bring up as my takeaway. UNC Wilmington, guys. If you had 10.5 last night, you were happy with the Seahawks performance. If you had anything less, though, they lost by 10 points in overtime after being up, 15 points in regulation. A very bad beat for those who had that at a lower price. The importance of strike price, the importance of line shopping. Thoughts and prayers to people that missed that. That's a terrible beat, and don't worry, the luck is coming back around for you if you were on Wilmington in that game.
Ky, props to you. We were talking for best bets, and I told you it went down below 10, and you said, it's not a bet anymore. So you got to have that discipline. It's important. That was kind of my takeaway too. A general sense of you have to have that price. You can't just blindly take a team at any price. There's got to be a thought process that goes into it because that number clearly really matters. But I'm just going to live on the joy of having 10.5 and watching Takeo Siddle just say, nope, no foul as they were down 10. I was like, oh, thank you.
It's those types of coaches we need to make notes of. And we need to add an extra 3 points to their power rating value. But yes, that was a sweat. And it actually great transition segue to my takeaway. If you're tired of all these excruciating endgames, folks, I would strongly give first half bets a large consideration here. I think, especially if you're following a lot of our picks, our recommendations, we tend to bet more underdogs than favorites. A lot of these underdogs, especially ones that are double-digit, larger type spreads, are cracking in the final 5 minutes. We saw a few teams last night get forked, as we like to say. Look at the old ESPN Gamecast app, and we see the favorite going this way and the dog just going straight across horizontal. Not a good trajectory there. Eastern Washington, this happened to Hampton, much to me and Ky's chagrin. And Fairfield, also me and Ky got screwed in that one as well. So I would, again, folks, unless you're betting $1,000 a game, it's worth it for you to consider, I think, breaking up your half into first half and full game. The only reason why most people, the big sharps in the biz don't bet full game because limits aren't that big. So just something to consider if you want to avoid the tumultuous endgame roller coaster. But hey, it's part of the fun. That's why we do what we do. Before we get to the rundown here, just a few plugs. SBRodds.com. That's where we'll be referencing all of our line shopping takes throughout the show. Again, we talked about, value is king. If you had 9 or 8 with Wilmington, you're not a happy person this morning. But what we want to talk about today, in addition to the Goliath versus Goliath matches we talked about in the intro, there's actually a big mid-major bout on the slate today, Murray State versus Austin Peay. We'll close with that at the end. We also want to talk about Creighton versus KU, a big bona fide blue blood versus a baby blue blood. But first of all, the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Yes, it's back. We're going to talk about 4 of these games, or 5 of these games, if I can do my math correctly. There's so many good games on the slate tonight. We'll get to all of them. Please pepper in your takes in the chat mob. Ky, I'm anointing you chat czar for today's episode. I'm sure we'll have plenty of inquiries from the group. But let's get right into it, folks. North Carolina at Iowa. I would argue the headliner of tonight's Big Ten ACC showdown. This is the first time we get to see Luka Garza get out of his 7th grade YMCA dominance and actually play some real opponents. He's averaging 34 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, and 3 blocks a game in 26 minutes of action. He's annihilated the competition, albeit it's not been great competition. Jim, I'll go to you first. Do you think he meets his match here with North Carolina's front line? They have a stable of bigs up front. I know one of their key linchpins, Garrison Brooks, is nursing an ankle injury. Are you looking out for this?
Yeah, so Garza has, I think, outscored 2 of his opponents in the first half, by himself. I know he did it once. I think maybe he lost the first half by 1 to Western Illinois. UNC has a terrific front line. Garza's still going to put up 28 and 11. I'm not really that concerned about him. He's too intense. His motor is constantly running. His footwork is too good. His touch is too good. You can't really shut the guy down. But if UNC can kind of, make him work for it with single coverage with Day'Ron Sharp and Armando Bacot, make him really, have to, every bucket is a war. And then you don't have to double off the shooters. That's kind of the goal. You let Garza maybe get his 28-30, but if the rest of the supporting cast can't, keep cutting you from deep, then UNC's got a real chance here. And I kind of like them on the road as a dog. It's just a big test for the Heels offense. I mean, if you can't score against this Iowa defense, you're probably not a very good offense. And we're going to have to wait and see on that, because especially if Brooks is out or beat up and they can't just go to him in the post, then they've got to find some other options. Caleb Love's got to step up. RJ Davis has to step up. It's going to be quite a battle here. I'm very excited for it. Don't have a true take on side or total. I might lean UNC if Brooks was good to go, but without knowing his status, I'm kind of wishy-washy. Kai, what about you?
It was the other end. I'm concerned about Luka Garza. I mean, even without Garrison Brooks, UNC has Day'Ron Sharp, who's an awesome player. He just hasn't been able to get on the floor as much because Brooks and Baycott exist. I think they're going to have a field day on the glass. I mean, Garza's not, atrocious, but he's only one guy, and I think UNC has a huge advantage on that end. Also, RJ Davis, a guy, Jim, you briefly mentioned, he's kind of getting lost in the shuffle here. Caleb Love gets most of the attention. He's been extremely efficient, playing close to 30 minutes a game. He's been just excellent. I just don't think Iowa's defense is good enough. 229th currently. That's 3 games against terrible opponents. 229th currently in defensive rebounding percentage. How do you think that's going to fare against a UNC team that dominates the glass? I think it's going to be a bloodbath on that end, and totally realize that Iowa will get their points the other end. That's why I like the over as one of my official plays. Last time I saw 157 was the total. I will take the over UNC Iowa in this game.
Anecdotally, Kai, I agree with that over lane. I was going to take UNC. I actually made them a slight favorite in this game. So as Jim mentioned, getting them as a dog feels like good value. But there's something I can't quite put my finger on with this Tar Heel bunch right now. They've gotten off to slow starts in pretty much every game so far. Charleston had them down midway through the second half in their opener. UNLV actually jumped on them early before that game flipped pretty quickly. Stanford and Texas, they weren't operating on all cylinders for much of that game. So this offense is still trying to find itself. And, if UNC and Iowa were playing 2 months from now, I think I'd be more confident in my number on UNC being favored. But for me, I'm just going to stay away because Iowa knows who they are. They know what they're doing. And I think the early season continuity bodes well for them in this matchup from a side perspective. So hard stay away from me there. Let's keep cruising to our second game on the slate, Big Ten ACC Challenge. Illinois traveling to take on my Duke Blue Devils, excuse me. It's probably appropriate to use the D-double-OK, given how Duke's played the last 3 games. Just a tough start for the young Devils. And we've seen a lot of these young teams struggle. Obviously, Kentucky losing outright to Georgia Tech last night. So freshman-laden teams are not faring well so far. Duke is 0-3 against a number this year, not covering by a margin of 16 points a game. Illinois showed some signs of, they showed some warts as well in their most recent bouts after running roughshod over 2, low-end, mid-major, low major opponents to start the year. Kyle, I'll go to you this one. I know you're more of an Illini guy than me and Jim here. Do you think the Illini pick off a Duke team that's still trying to find its way?
Well, I disagree. I'm not more of an Illini guy than either of you. I actually lean the Duke Blue Devils in this one.
Pardon me.
I think the entire world's going to be on Illinois because I think everyone's stuck in the mindset of Illinois blew out Chicago State and NCAA by 50 and looked impressive in those games. And you have the whole Coburn's assume new angle, the very public players out there from a national perspective. And Duke is 0-3 against the spread and hasn't looked great so far. I think Duke is they're coming around. They're going to get there. This is still a very talented team. Matthew Hurt has been a star. The defense is where I really think Duke has done actually a good job so far. It's just the offensive end that needs a couple tweaks. Now, I'm surprised the line hasn't come down very much. It's still like -3.5 Duke favored. So I'm not taking it at that price, but I was hoping to get a lower number on the Blue Devils. But for me, it's stay away at the current market.
Yeah, this game is the hardest of stayaways for me. I'm very much with you. People seem to have this idea that Illinois is going to just go in there and blow the doors off them. Illinois was life and death with Ohio at home, who is admittedly a good MAC team, but they probably should have lost that game. Got a late call on a DeSumo drive that it was probably a foul, but down to Ohio at home with 1 second left, people would skewer Duke if that was the case. Yeah. I think people are just really anxious to bury Duke and see a bad Duke team.
Yeah.
And while it might be, I don't think you can totally prop up what Illinois has done 2-2 against the number, got run off the court by Baylor in the second half. So I'm not like super excited to go against Duke here. The numbers are right about where I'd make them. If it goes down, I would join Ky on Duke, but I just don't think that Duke is as bad as maybe they've shown so far. I don't think Stewart and Moore will go 0 for 16 combined from the field like they did against Michigan State.
Completely agree. Yep.
I think there's this is about the right line. You're only super excited about Illinois if you just like can't wait to put Duke in the ground. Matt, are you you're the guy that took Michigan State on the road at Duke? Are you thinking the same thing here?
Yeah, I saw the writing on the wall when Duke played Coppin State, and I still have yet to see any sort of positive correction for Duke fixing some of these defensive cracks. Illinois, the second half was a different game, but the first half they went punch for punch with Baylor, a Baylor team who we think is by far the second best team in the country. I think a slight notch below Gonzaga. So that I'm looking at those 20 minutes to say, okay, I've seen Illinois play elite caliber basketball against one of the elite teams in this year's landscape. I expect them to kind of extrapolate that over a full game. I know it's at Cameron Indoor. The Cameron Indoor thing is not the same this year, obviously, with no fans. So I actually think Illinois has the edge here. I'm going to stay away. The price is right, but I would go against my Devils if I had to choose a side. Let's keep on rolling. Game number 3, Big Ten ACC Challenge continues. Syracuse at Rutgers.
Nope, I'll go back up.
Oh, Purdue at Miami. Florida.
Matt,
every show.
Round 10.
My streak of episodes hosting without messing up the outline now ends at 1. Purdue at Miami. We're going down to Coral Gables for this one, and you're going to need a doctor and a Twitter feed tool to keep track of all the injuries that are coming through here. We'll start with the big one, Eric Hunter of Purdue. I would argue maybe their most valuable player, not named Travion Williams. Apparently, he's going to be back tonight at full strength. That's a huge boost for this Boiler offense that's really been in slow-mo all season. On the flip side, the Canes could be without their many dynamo. Chris Likes, who's been chronically injured his whole career, nursing an ankle injury right now. Matt Cross as well, another very solid freshman who's emerged for the Canes, is dicey. Jim, I know you're on the beat with these injuries. Where are we at with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, Hunter's good to go. And after watching them play a Clemson team that kind of just diced up their defense, I think that's huge. I mean, he is a long perimeter defender, can really bother people, and then take care of the ball and slash on offense. He's kind of exactly what they needed. And I'm pretty high on Purdue here. As long as Chris Likes is out, that's the thing you've got to be cognizant of. Yesterday, he got opinions from doctors. He did not practice. Probably not going to play. The other big thing is Travion Williams versus Nazir Brooks in the paint. If Brooks can kind of guard him one-on-one, that really shuts down a lot of what Purdue does offensively. They want to draw that double. Williams is a terrific passer from the post, so he can kind of feed the action that they have going on in the perimeter. It opens up Stefanovic and the rest of the shooters on that squad. So I'm eyeing that early to see if Travion can score on him one-on-one, then that's very good for Purdue and a worrying sign for Miami. Kai, how about you here?
Yeah, you kind of touched on it with Hunter. He adds another ball handler and scorer to this Purdue team, which is something they definitely need. Without him, they're still 16th in the country in three-point percentage, which is impressive considering Hunter is actually a good shooter, and he probably only adds to that potency from downtown. I agree. I'm leaning Purdue, especially with the Likes injury. I kind of like them beforehand, just kind of as a team on the road. There's not any fans in Miami. I think Purdue is the better team overall. I think Miami's a little bit overrated for my liking. We've talked about that a little bit in the preseason, but I do lean Purdue. I like the under even better. Last time I saw it was 141. I'll be taking that as my official bet in this game.
One other mention is that Earl Timberlake, the 4 to 5 star freshman, still out for Miami, Florida. So there they are, more than a little bit shorthanded.
And I think the injury, the shorthandedness of the Canes predominantly plays well for the under. I'm going to co-sign Kai's pick there. It actually might be one of my better picks of the day, knock on wood. I just think without Likes in the lineup, they're going to play a more controlled pace. Likes is just a speedster. He likes to attack opportunities in transition, off rebounds. He'll take some early shot clock chucks. So you remove him, I think you see a more methodical, more contained Miami offense that should play for a lower pace and then thus be good for the under. So I agree with Kai on that one. No strong lead on the side. Let's continue to what I teased just before we got to this game. I'm just way too excited to talk Rutgers basketball because we're going back to the rack. Syracuse taking the not so far, I guess it's a pretty far trip to Rutgers. And again, the rack, that home court edge that Rutgers enjoyed all year last season, won't be as strong, obviously, but they're always very strong in the friendly confines of the rack. Another matchup here with some injury/COVID implications. Buddy Boeheim, son of Jim Boeheim, obviously, sharpshooter for Syracuse, will be out. He is still in quarantine with the COVID protocols. Sidibe, their monster center, kind of the fulcrum of that defense, really good offensive rebounder, will also be out tonight. I forget what the injury is. Jim hold me accountable there. But on the other side, Geo Baker is expected to play. He's unlikely to play tonight for Rutgers. But he's a guy I don't think we really care a lot about. This Rutgers team has been fantastic without him when he's missed time the last year and a half. So not worried about that. Jim, I'll start with you here. Here's how I see this one. We've seen Syracuse take care of business since the Bryant hiccup, but they were playing two teams playing their first game, right? Niagara and Ryder, who had massive COVID issues. So does that lead to some inflation on Syracuse's value and thus open up some value for Rutgers here?
I liked Rutgers at the 3.5 price, but I don't like it at the 4. I'm not touching it now. I think it's kind of gotten into range where it belongs. The thing is, Syracuse can't rebound out of the zone. They've rebounded fine. Their rebound percentage looks okay right now because of the competition they've played, but they're always like bottom 30 in the country. And Rutgers is going to attack the glass constantly. Just because they might not make a ton of shots against that zone, they're going to get a ton of second chances. No Sidibe in there, as you mentioned. That's a huge thing for them. And then offensively, Syracuse down a shooter against this Rutgers defense, that concerns me too. Griffin's been solid. Gerard has been terrific. But is that enough offensive punch to score against a super physical Rutgers team? I'm not quite there. So I know Chat Mob, Kevin Gengler specifically, is all over Syracuse here. I'm a little more cautious. I think maybe what I would like is the under. That's what I'm taking here. Yeah. Let me see if I find the current number right now. 140.5. Yeah, I'll take under 140.5 on this one, just because I think both teams will struggle to score a little bit. Rutgers will hopefully want to play it in the half court. They don't have their leader, Geo Baker, to dictate the offense. So I'll go under. What about you, Kai? Are you riding with me or either side here? What do you think?
I definitely lean the under, Jim. And Matt, I do think Geo Baker is an important part of the Rutgers team, obviously. In this game, he should matter a little bit more than maybe other games against lesser competition, just due to the fact it is a step up in competition with Syracuse. But I agree, Rutgers, they should kill Syracuse on the glass. Not the best shooting team the Knights, but they are absolutely a good rebounding team. And without Sidibe for Syracuse, that glass gets pretty vulnerable. That's going to be a huge factor. And then Syracuse is going to have a hard time scoring. Buddy Boeheim, like Jim said, is a huge part of their offense, a huge part of their floor spacing. So that's why I agree with Jim on the under lean here. Not an official play for me, but certainly a lean towards Jim's total there.
I also lean under, and yeah, Kai, to your point, I don't mean to diminish Geo Baker. Obviously, a fantastic player, a clutch shot maker for the Scarlet Knights the last couple of years. I just think they've been in a groove without him, and his services won't be missed as badly as some may think. Let's do one more Big Ten ACC challenge bout before we get to a little chat mob break. The last one here, Ohio State at Notre Dame. Physicality versus finesse is what I see the headline here. Both teams are kind of struggling on offense to some degree. They both kind of lack a dynamic creator, guy who can go get you a bucket, who can get in the lane and bend the defense. It's very much system-based, team-based, offensive execution-based. I think you see a very, very half-court dominant, slow game. I don't have the updated total in front of me, but to me, it just feels like an under-type game. Kyle, I'll go to you here first. Where do you stand on this matchup?
I lean the Buckeyes. They've looked strong against, albeit inferior competition, but I just think the Irish are kind of terrible this year. They're a mess. I mean, they battled with Detroit. They were getting creamed by Michigan State before they backdoored that cover. So that game doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence either. And Ohio State, a team that ranks 12th in KenPom, which might surprise people to see just given how much they lost last year with Caleb Wesson. I know Seth Towns is questionable. That's probably a deciding factor for me if I'm going to take the Buckeyes one way or another. I think the spread's -5 currently, the Buckeyes. Musa Jallo's out, doesn't mean as much for Ohio State, but Seth Towns is a guy that could actually matter. Again, I just think Notre Dame is really going to struggle with Ohio State's physicality, their superior talent, and I definitely lean the Buckeyes in this one.
Yeah, I'm liking the under here. Again, I'm kind of a broken record after that last game, but Notre Dame's basically playing 5 guys at this point. I don't think they're going to try to run up and down too much, and Ohio State's transition defense is probably too good for that to happen. And then Notre Dame's been mixing in zone just because of that limited rotation.
Yep.
Ohio State, not a terrific shooting team outside of Dwayne Washington and Towns if he does play and is looking healthy. But so I'm going to take the under there, locking it in at, I'm seeing 141 available at Circa Sports right now, DraftKings, so that's what I'm taking. And no real lean on the side. I sort of might lean Notre Dame just as the home dog, but nowhere near strong enough to go against my guy Ky here.
I actually like, Jim, your point about the zone, but that leads me to take Ohio State, honestly. I think the Buckeyes are a fantastic interior passing team. Their bigs really share the ball well. So if Notre Dame does go with that zone, I can see the Buckeyes carving that up more from an inside-out type approach. All right, let's pause there. We need some chat response. Ky, kick us off with some questions.
Yeah, we got a few. We got Thomas Dillon asking about Minnesota, Boston College. I know Matt and Jim might have a take on this one. Matt, let's go to you.
I'm looking at the Eagles here. It's a team that really disappointed me against Florida, but Florida has been in sort of wrecking ball since that debacle against Army in the opener. So I'm inclined to think Boston College is more like the team we saw before the Florida game than that last match. I'm going to get back on track here against Minnesota, who is a little bit, I think their value's inflated. It's really just the Marcus Carr show there. His supporting cast has not been that helpful. Jim, are you going to ride with the Eagles with me here?
I'm not at the current number. It's down 6.5 across the board. So not gonna take it there. And you got to pretend that Florida game never happened because they were terrible against Florida, both ends of the court. No Fred Scott again for them. That could be a concern. I'm leaving this one alone.
Yeah, I would take it at 7, but not a half. 6.5 is probably too low. So thank you. Good point, Jim, on the movement.
Sticking to the main board, let's go Northern Kentucky versus Dayton. Roderick Mosley specifically asked about plus 12 in this game. Jim, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, that's about what I made it. I don't have a big side lean here. I kind of, if I had to choose, I probably lean Dayton. They're angry off that home loss to SMU, and they did not look good against EIU the game before either. So either, they're going to go 0-3 against the spread and look real bad, or they're going to have kind of a statement performance at home. I lean towards the latter. This Northern Kentucky team still trying to figure things out without Jalen Tate and Dontez Walton from last year. But no real strong take there. If you like NKU with zero travel, I mean, they're just crossing the river. Well, I guess it's a little bit of travel to Dayton. But if you like NKU, stick with it. I don't have anything strong.
I see the total's been bet down 5 points, almost down to 134 now. I wonder if people saw that Dayton SMU game. Dayton play a lot more like their true selves, right? A slower, more half-court oriented team after the first few matchups they played. Track meet sort of skewed their perception of pace. So I think some people who are on the under early may have the right read there.
And then one more main board here from Ben C. Penn State, Virginia Tech. This is a game I looked at the opener. So this is Penn State. I think the open at 6, I believe, was the spread. Quickly bet down. I don't know what it currently is, but it's not a play for me anymore. I only would have taken it at 6. Virginia Tech getting Cartier Jara back in this game. He's a huge addition for them. Penn State coming off kind of that heartbreaking defeat to Seton Hall earlier this week. So I would lean Penn State, but nothing official for me on that. Guys, anything on that game?
I got nothing. Jim, anything strong?
Nothing official. I kind of lean Virginia Tech myself, but nothing huge there. Ky, I want to mention one more main board game before we move on here. Jake M. and Darren Cook both asked about Colorado, Tennessee. We're finally getting the Vols debut, a potential top 10 team here that's been hiding in quarantine for the start of the season. Whereas Colorado's actually played some games, and they might get Deshaun Schwartz back, a wing who has missed some games early. I still kind of lean Tennessee here, though. I just think they're too good. I'm guessing, this is total projection for me, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing they've been practicing a little bit during their COVID stuff. just a hunch that a team that good hasn't been completely shut down. So I'm going to go with the Vols -5, -5.5. I'm not taking it. Sorry, that's just a lean, but that's the direction I'd be looking.
I agree, Jim, although I've seen it creep up to 5.5 in some places. I sort of drew the line in the sand at 5 personally. I'm kind of being a hypocrite here going against betting on a team playing their first game of the year. I feel like I've found value attacking those teams. So especially with Colorado, how good they've taken my money a few times this year. So maybe I'm disrespecting the Buffs, but I will continue to be stubborn and stay with the Vols.
Yeah, lean Tennessee for me as well.
Tennessee for Mr. McKeon. All right, let's put a pin on the chat mob discussion. We'll get back to those at the end of the show. Back to the rundown, which I will follow so diligently here. We're leaving the Big Ten ACC Challenge pond. We're going to a battle of blue bloods. We have a bona fide blue blood and, like I said, a baby blue blood in Creighton. Seems like they're creeping up that ladder, trying to get a seat at the big boy table. The Jayhawks hosting here at Fog Allen. Again, not the same Fog Allen without fans. Kansas, add them to the list of Duke, Kentucky, younger teams struggling this year. They are 1-3 against the number. Should have lost North Dakota State at home last game. Creighton now fully healthy. They had a full roster the last 2 games. They're starting to look like they're hitting on all cylinders. Kyle, start with you here. Do you like the Jays catching some points on the road?
Well, shoot, the spread I'm seeing is 4.5 now. That number's gone up. I liked it more for Kansas' side at 3.5. It's going to be a fun game to watch. I mean, this slate is awesome. We've said a couple times already. The offensive potency of Creighton is going to be so awesome to watch against a Kansas squad that can really defend. Marcus Garrett, is he 100%? He's 8th on this team in usage currently, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. This is a guy that should be forefront handling the ball, making plays for them, and he just hasn't done that quite yet. Instead, it's been Jalen Wilson, who's been kind of Kansas's stud thus far. And I'm wondering if Creighton really can handle the glass battle that Kansas is going to throw at them, especially David McCormick. He's a guy that could really eat inside against Creighton's kind of smaller front line. So it's a lean for Kansas at the earlier spread at 4.5. No play for me, just sitting back and enjoying the game.
So McCormick's been either A, bad, or B, beat up, or C, both this year. I think Bill Self said he's been kind of dealing with a knee thing, and he hasn't played a ton. He hasn't hit double-digit scoring against anybody but D2 Washburn. He's averaging like 4 rebounds a game. So I'm not ready to count on him yet in this one, even though the Creighton front line is thin. And that makes me lean over a little. I think Kansas will stick to some of that small ball that they've played. Creighton clearly wants to run. They want to score. This total's been bet up from like 147.5 to 150. So people are probably seeing the same thing. Hey, this is the first time these two have played since 1974. There's a fun fact for you. But I don't have a big side lean here. I think this is going to be an awesome one to watch.
Yes.
2 offenses that can really score, especially if they start getting running up and down, very guard heavy. So this one's just a kickback and enjoy for me.
I'm with Jim. I will get this will get your popcorn and sit back and tune in. No strong lean on the side or the total. Let's move into mid-major land. An OVC showdown tonight. Austin Peay headed to Murray State. Before the season, we talked about this being a 3-horse race in the Ohio Valley. I love that we get conference plays so early in the season. 2 of these 3 ponies will be in action right here. Murray State, Austin Peay. Austin Peay has struggled this year, I would say, relative to our expectations. Murray State has been solid. I don't think a world beater, but very strong.
They got whooped at Middle Tennessee. They haven't been good either.
Yeah, okay, I guess that's fair. I guess I watched the second half of their runaway against whoever they just played last game.
Illinois State.
Illinois State, yeah, very impressive. Illinois State has certainly struggled as well. Jim, you're the token OVC expert here. I'll start with you. Where are you leaning in this big bout between OVC stalwarts?
Yeah, Matt, there was an opener of 6 on this game, and I would have been all over Austin Peay, but I missed it. I did not get that 6. It immediately down to 4. People were very into that spread, and smartly so. Because these two are pretty close to evenly matched, I think. I mean, Murray has more of the program clout. They've been the top of the OVC for years. But Austin Peay has great individual talent. Jordan Adams, Terry Taylor, 2 of the top players in the entire league. It seems like it's going to be a close one. If anything, I would lean taking the point still with Austin Peay. But the number's right about where I have it. Yeah. I unfortunately it's hard to take a strong pick when you got 2 teams that have kind of underperformed. Now they enter conference play early, and maybe they kind of get back up to that level that we predicted them to be at. But just nothing too strong here. 2 solid coaches. It should be a good one. Should be a good one in the OVC. And Belmont has they lost at home to Samford, so these 2 could be the top 2 teams in the OVC.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I like to think the OVC play is a bit different, right? It's incredibly competitive. Kind of throw out the non-conference a little bit, what these teams did early on, which you guys have already said they didn't look very good so far this season. I think this game's a close one. Initially I had a Murray State lean at 4 here, but I think the Governors really know this team well. I think they'll Matt Figger, an incredible head coach at Austin Peay. He's going to have a good game plan for this one. Jeff Goodman, our friend Jeff Goodman, ranked Austin Peay 25th in his preseason ranking. So that tells you, probably an incorrect ranking there, but it tells you how much talent this Govs team has. And Jordan Adams, Terry Taylor, yeah. I mean, they're a good basketball team. The issue so far has been on the defensive end. And I think that kind of turns around tonight. So I'll lean Austin Peay But I'm really on the fence with this one either way.
I agree. I lean Austin Peay at the current price, but no strong take either way. I'll be, again, I just want to watch this game. I want to see how legit these two OVC squads are. I think we may have overrated all three to start the year, to be blunt. Let's get to our best bets here and then circle back with some chat mob rapid fire at the end. Kai, I see you are up first in the outline for your best bet of the evening. Where are you putting your money?
I am, and I got a current spread for everybody because this one has moved a lot. So Kent State is my best bet. Love the opener. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I loved the opener at +1. Couldn't believe Kent State is a dog to Detroit. Blew my mind. It's currently -2.5 in favor of the Golden Flashes. I'm still taking it. They're a much better team. This is lined because Detroit's strong showings against Notre Dame and Michigan State. Again, we've talked about Notre Dame. I don't think they're that good of a team. Michigan State, sleepy spot for them. Kind of an in-state thing with Detroit. Show me respect, that sort of thing. Kent State, very impressive against Virginia. That was their first D1 game of the season.
Yeah.
So that blew me away. And then, most importantly, probably, Detroit only plays about 6 guys. This is their 3rd game in 5 days. It's going to be tough for them to compete, I think, in this one, even though they're at home. I think Danny Pippen eats inside for Kent State. I think guys like Malik Jacobs, Mike Nuga can give Antoine Davis at least some resistance on the perimeter. So I'm taking Kent State. -2.5, I believe, is what I'm seeing currently. -3 says Chatmov. All right. I'll take -3 then. Sure. Why not?
I think I need one thing I want to say to Chatmov.
There are several books up there, guys.
Right. Like if your book has 3, that doesn't mean that 2.5 is not available.
Your book is the only book out there. There's no other book.
There are 20+ books at least. Yeah. Kent State -2.5, -3. Whatever. You pick it.
All right. I will hop in with my pick. We'll go to Jim's pick now. And I kind of hinted at it earlier, and I probably should have just made it official then because the line has moved during the show. But I'm going Purdue. Purdue -1.5. They were +1.5 early in the show, or +1, but I will lock it in at -1.5. That will be the official play. I like the Boilers going on the road here with Hunter. I was really high on them in the preseason, and now that they get Hunter back, I think they're closer to their truer selves. And Miami, a team I was also high on, is not a whole squad right now. You might get a limited or no Chris Likes, no Timberlake still. So yeah. I'm going with the Boilers. That is my official bet. Matt, what about you?
Actually, my 2 favorite bets on the board today are the totals in both of the side picks you guys just made. I alluded to my love for the under in Purdue-Miami earlier. Kai touched on the Kent State matchup, I think, very astutely. I like the under for a lot of the reasons he mentioned. Again, Kent State playing a Detroit Mercy team that's going to be shorthanded, playing a very thin rotation. It could be a flat spot after 2. Really impressive efforts. I just don't see them playing a 3rd straight game of that caliber. Kent State just played a war with Virginia. You could argue there could be a little bit of a letdown spot here after they took them to overtime. It's a very defensive-minded Kent State team this year. It's a little bit different from the types of Kent State teams we've seen in the past, who are more offensive-oriented. So I think the under plays well here. I'm looking at 148.5, 149, a few places on SBRodds.com. I think I would like the under here, and I will stick with that as my best bet of the day. Kai, a few rapid-fire chat mob questions here. Let's get through them.
Let's go Luke Beasley, Bryant St. Francis, Brooklyn. An extra board game. Yes.
Bryant next.
Bryant for me as well.
Bulldogs.
First game for Brooklyn, by the way, and a conference game, NEC play. Let's go Matt Jensen or Jansen, excuse me. I can't read my own handwriting. Campbell, Jacksonville. A game off the beaten path a little bit. At Jacksonville, I believe. Any leans here, guys?
I got nothing. I think maybe the over is what my number looked favorably for last night, but no, I haven't. I'll be honest, it's kind of a blind spot for me. I think the over might play well again. Those teams playing their first game tend to play a little more helter-skelter in their openers, so I think the over probably has some value here.
I think it's Campbell's first game, so yeah, maybe a little lean to Jacksonville for that reason.
I agree. The real winner, though, is the mascot game of these two teams, Dolphins versus Camels. You can't really get better than that in college basketball. Okay, let's move on to Nick. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. East Tennessee State versus UNC Asheville. Opened at 1.5. I thought a little bit low. Totally dependent on Devon Baker's health for Asheville for me, as well as Cody Jude, 2 starters that have started literally every game they've played in their collegiate career. I will lean ETSU if they're out. I might go the other way if those 2 are cleared to play. Guys, anything there?
I thought I just saw it might be canceled. Is that a breaking news coming across the wire? I could be wrong.
Not sure. If it plays, I'm with Kai. If those 2 guys are out.
Kelvin Sampson with the validation. Thank you.
Okay.
On the beat. Thank you, Kelvin.
All right. Let's not worry about that one then. Let's go back to a St. Francis, but this time it's Pennsylvania. So SFU instead of SFC. Durko Gaming says he wants this game versus the Mount. Guys, Flashes or the Mount? It's at Mount St. Mary's.
You can't touch St. Francis unless you know if Ramir Dixon Conover is playing. He's missed the last game and a half, maybe 2.5 games. The star of their opener against Pitt, their point guard, their leader. Keep an eye on him. It's a conference game, so I guess that he guts it out, but I think it's really important to check on his status.
Agree. I would lean him out. I lean them out if he's out too. I agree, Jim. Kai, does that conclude our roundup or any more last-second requests from the mob?
I had Sean P. asking about Iona. They're about 10-point favorites against Morgan State. No real lean for me. Shema and Gist still out, but obviously they were impressive against Hofstra. They won outright in that game. Morgan State's feisty. They're not as bad as I think most people might think, the MEAC team, but no play for me in that one, guys.
Yep, nothing either. Let me run through 3 more quick. Just you can say one-word replies. Joe Alexander, Belmont versus Tennessee State. Anything?
Belmont, bounce back. Yep.
Starting conference play. Like it.
Yes.
Noah V. has got Delaware headed to UMBC. Early tip for a team on back-to-back. Potentially an under there.
Yes. Agree.
Delaware
under.
for me.
No side.
Delaware. I'm going to keep betting against UMBC for some reason because I like to hurt myself.
Retrievers are good.
They are good. They're good. Yeah. That's all I got.
Mary Lou asked about Seton Hall and Wagner. This is Wagner's first game. Seton Hall has been all over the country traveling like crazy. I lean the under there just because of the combination of those 2 spots.
I like the dog for the same reason. I think it's a flat Seton Hall team that struggles to score. 20 plus feels like a large mountain to climb.
Low major against a power 6, big spread. That scares me for a dog. We've seen
fair.
So
it's
far.
Not play well this year.
I'll lean Seton Hall. Yeah.
All right. Multiple people asking about Marquette, Green Bay. I think we lean towards maybe Green Bay in the under.
Yes.
And then multiple people, Montana, Georgia. We're worried about Montana in this one. They're beat up. They're going across country after 2 conference games. I would not touch Montana.
If Derek Carter Hollinger's out, can't touch Montana.
Yeah, agree.
All right. We can't go forever, so let's wrap this up. Matt, I'll let you sign us off.
All good things must come to an end. Again, folks, make sure to line shop SBRodds.com. Check out SBRpicks.com/NCAABB for our content, other great context, picks, expert analysis, etc. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. Until then, take care. Good luck.